So let's begin solving the question. The first one says that we should write the electronic configuration of an element which is called sodium. So solution. So we all know that sodium has 11 valence electrons. Okay, so for us to write the electronic configuration of sodium, it's going to be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, then 3s1. Okay, from what I've explained earlier, from the format I gave us before now for the electronic configuration, you see, we have 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. So look at this. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. So this is the electronic configuration of sodium. As simple as that. So let's move on to the next one, which says write the electronic configuration of carbon. So for carbon, we know that carbon has 6 valence electrons. So for you to know this valence electron, you have to get yourself familiarized with the periodic table, okay? So carbon having 6 valence electron, writing its electronic configuration is going to be 1s2, 2s2. As you can see, 2 plus 2 here is 4, right? So it remains 2 more for you to fill up. And we know that what comes next is P. So this is going to be 2p2. So this is 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. So this is 2 plus 2 plus 2, which is 6. So this is electronic configuration of what? Of carbon. It's just as simple and as straightforward as this, okay? So let's move on to the third question, which says that it says write the electronic configuration. This is EC, okay? Electronic configuration of sodium using the abbreviated format. Let's compare this now with the first example we solved. The first example only asks us to write the electronic configuration, but this one now is asking us to write the abbreviated format for sodium. So recall, just as we solved the first question, that sodium has 11 valence electrons, right? So for us to write the abbreviated format for sodium, step one. So let's take this step by step. Step one is for us to write the electronic configuration of sodium. And we know that the electronic configuration of sodium is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, and 2s1, right? So this is the normal electronic configuration of sodium. So this is step one. Now, moving on to the next step, step two. So now we need to find out which is the nearest noble gas before sodium. And if you look at the periodic table, well, as shown on the screen, the nearest noble gas before sodium is neon. Since we've identified the noble gas before sodium, which is neon, the next step, which is step three, is for us to write the electronic configuration of neon. But before we write that, we need to know what's the valence electron of neon, right? Neon has a valence electron of 10. Okay, so what we need to do in the next step now, which is step 4, is for us to write the electronic configuration of neon. So the electronic configuration of neon is going to be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. So this is the electronic configuration of neon. So what we need to identify next is for us to know the number of electrons that is shown of this. This shows that neon is one electron shown of sodium. So for us to write the condensed configuration or the abbreviated configuration of sodium, it's going to be, looking at this electronic configuration of neon, which is from, there is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. So it is shown of one electron, okay? This number of electron here. So this now becomes neon, then 2s1. This is the condensed or abbreviated configuration of neon. It's just as simple as that, okay? So let's move on to the last question, which says that we should write the abbreviated and electronic configuration of an element called chlorine. So the same step or the same way we solve the question 3 is the same way we solve this. So we have two in one question here. We are going to write the abbreviated form and also the electronic configuration. So we start writing first with writing the electronic configuration of chlorine. After writing out the electronic configuration, then we check the nearest noble gas before chlorine. We write out the electronic configuration. Then we move on to writing the condensed form or the abbreviated form. It's so simple and as straightforward as that. So let's move on to the step 1. The elements we are dealing with here is what we call chlorine. And we all know from the periodic table that chlorine has 17 electrons. So chlorine has 17 electrons. So now let's write out the next step, which is step 2, is for us to write out the electronic configuration of chlorine. Electronic configuration will become 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, then 3p5. Look at this. 2 plus 2, 4 plus 6, 10 plus 2 plus 5, which gives us 17. So this is the electronic configuration of chlorine. So the next step, which is step 3, is for us to check on the periodic table which noble gas comes before chlorine. It's also neon. So neon has valence electron, which is what? 10. Okay, so now the next step is for us to write out the electronic configuration of neon. So neon has electronic configuration of 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. So this is the electronic configuration of neon. So now, looking at this 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, this is the electronic configuration of neon, right? So now the last step, which is step 5, is for us to write the abbreviated format for chlorine. Okay, if you remember, it is called abbreviated format or the condensed format. Okay, so irrespective of how the question is given, if it says abbreviated format or condensed format, they all mean the same thing. So the abbreviated format for chlorine now becomes neon. So this is short of how many electrons? 7 electrons, which is this. So now we're going to have 3s2, 3p5. So this is the condensed form of chlorine. But this is the electronic configuration of chlorine. Remember, for you to write the condensed form of any element or the abbreviated form of any element, you go to your periodic table and check for the nearest or the noble gas that comes before it, the nearest noble gas that comes before that element. Just as simple as that. So that is all we have today on the electronic configuration. Remember, after every of my class, I love to give exercises, right? So for today's exercise, kindly write out the electronic configuration of silver and write out the abbreviated form as our activity for today. I remain your pro guide Aisha Bende. The video is sponsored by Proch Connect. Thank you for watching, viewers, and see you in the next class. Bye for now.